Hello, everybody. I know it's been a long break, but I was sick back to back, and today was the first day in a long time I felt like I could do something more productive. So I'll be starting off by discussing about mechanisms of HHHFNC. So heated, humidified, high flow nasal cannula. So if somebody asks you as a Viva question, or if it comes as a theory question, and if you're starting a patient on HFNC, you need to know how it works. So then you decide which patient would it help and which patients it would not, right? So the easy way for you to remember this is high flow, HIFLOW. So what is this? It's in no particular order of importance. We'll just discuss it one by one, and I'll highlight you which are the most important mechanisms of actions. So H is heated and humidified. So normally what happens, you take in air, you heat it, you humidify it, and then it goes into your lower airways and your alveoli, right? But in a sick patient, they are breathing too fast and too hard for their own good. And then on top of that, they have to expend energy not only for this increased work of breathing, but also for humidification of this air. So that's an extra energy demand on them. And if you're going to give these children cold, dry air that comes off your oxygen flow meter, then it's going to cause a lot of airway inflammation. It's going to increase your airway resistance, and it's going to decrease your mucociliary clearance because it's going to make the secretions thick and viscid, and it's not going to be easy for your cilia to clear them off. So if you give them heated and humidified oxygen or air, then you circumvent all this problem and the increased energy expenditure. All right. So next one is inspiratory demand. So a recent 2022 paper has shown that there's going to be decreased work of breathing in children with bronchiolitis when you give them HFNC. So inspiratory demand goes up because you need more minute ventilation for sick patients, right? So if a patient is normally breathing at say 10 liters per minute, and a sick patient is requiring say 60 liters per minute, okay, then the demand has gone up. So they increase or they try to meet this demand by either increasing rate or by increasing the depth of respiration. Correct. So increasing rate is what pediatric age group does generally. So if you're going to give this child or say adolescent, most probably, who's requiring 60 liters, simple nasal cannula, with which you are going to give hardly 2 to 4 liters maximum, right? Or you are being too generous and you are giving a nasal mask of say around 6 to 8 liters. Or you're being extremely generous and you are giving them a non-rebreathing mask. 15 liters you are adding. How is that anyway matching the demand of 60 liters per minute? It's not, right? So that's where your high flow nasal cannula comes into play. So they can give up to 60 liters, 60 liters per minute, especially your Airvo 2 sort of machines. So you meet their inspiratory demands. If you are not meeting these demands, what will happen to the oxygen levels? I'll discuss with you in a moment. All right, but meeting inspiratory demands is one of the sure short ways to get your work of breathing to reduce. Next, F. F is for FRC. FRC is that amount of air that remains in your lungs after a normal breathe out session. Correct? So, this is what maintains your gas exchange even after you have breathed out air. All right. And this is maintained by means of PWP. I am sorry for this beautiful lips. This was drawn by my son. Okay. So imagine HFNC. Is it going to actually give PWP? That's something debatable because there is still a lot of back and forth discussion happening. Most of the studies have quoted somewhere between zero point 0.5 to 1 centimeter of water for every 10 liters flow. All right. So why does this happen? Because there is leak happening. Where does the leak happen? You choose an interface that is, anyways going to fit only half the size of your nares. That is number one. Second, the patient has the mouth open. Correct? So because of these two reasons, what happens? There's always going to be a leak, and there's not going to be consistent pressure delivery into your lower airways. So PEEP is not the main mechanism by how your HFNC works. So we have covered H, we have I, sorry. So we have covered H, we have covered I, we have covered F, then L. L, lightweight. Lightweight is basically for comfort. The patient is going to be more compliant to a system that, basically molds with their face. It allows them to speak. It allows them to have food, a little bit of, mobility, like at least sitting up, dangling their legs down, that sort of thing. And it being soft does not hurt the patient either, right? So L. Next is O, oxygen dilution. So your oxygen dilution, your washout of dead space, and inspiratory demand decreasing is the most important mechanisms by how it works. So what is oxygen dilution? So oxygen dilution and washout of dead space. Let's see them both. So this is a patient who is requiring, say, around 20 liters per minute. Okay. So basic, what you have to understand is, for every liter of oxygen that you deliver through your oxygen flow meter, you increase the FiO2 by 3 to 4% over and above the 21% oxygen in room air. Got it? So if I'm going to give 2 liters of oxygen through a nasal cannula, so then I am going to increase the oxygen concentration I am giving by, say, 4 into 2, if I take around 28% maybe. Yeah, somewhere between 25 to 28%. Correct? Right. So this is a general thumb of rule. All right. So imagine this patient who is requiring 20 liters per minute of flow. That is the demand of the patient. All right. You are giving 4 liters through nasal cannula. Okay. So now what happens? This patient is still requiring 16 liters extra. Right. So the patient is trying to breathe through the mouth of 20 liters per minute approximately. Take it as 16 if you want to be perfect. So 4 liters has given approximately 37% of FiO2. And the patient is also taking in a deep breath of about 16 to 20 liters that carries 21% oxygen. So you are imagining, okay, I'm giving somewhere close to 35% of oxygen in nose. But what happens in reality is that this 20 liters of 21% oxygen, when it mixes with this, small scanty amount of 4 liters of 37% oxygen, what reaches at the end is somewhere closer to 21% rather than something that's closer to 35%, which is what you were expecting. And no wonder these patients, do not improve much. All right. So if you are going to meet this and more for the patient by giving through a nasal cannula, say you are giving 40 liters. This is a 20 kg patient. 2 liters per kg per minute you are starting, which is what we generally start on HFNC. Then you are giving 40% of 40 liters per minute. You can set your FiO2 in your HFNC machine. And the patient, suppose, is trying to take in 20 liters. So even if the patient is trying to take in 20 liters, what goes in is something closer to 40% rather than something that's closer to 21%. So you have met the inspiratory demand, you have met the oxygen requirement. So both of them will decrease your work of breathing for the patient. Okay, so that is how your HFNC helps. And washout of dead space. What is this dead space? So what we are talking about is basically an anatomical dead space and not a physiological or pathological dead space. So here normally we rebreathe about 1/3 of the tidal volume that we breathe out. All right. So the oxygen that you take in from your environment, 21%, is 2/3, and 15 to 16% of oxygen in your dead space, along with this 5 to 6% of carbon dioxide, is what actually goes back in. So in a respiratory failure, this rebreathing increases. We do not want this to happen. So which is why when you're going to add HFNC, it's going to wash out all this, 15, 16% oxygen out, and it's going to replace it with whatever FiO2 you have set, say 40% oxygen rich gas, it will be replaced. So whenever the patient is breathing out and breathing in, it's going to be a fresh oxygen rich gas rather than an oxygen poor gas that was already staying in the dead space. I'm hoping I'm making sense. All right. So this is how your HFNC works. So mechanisms of action, it's heated and humidified. It decreases the inspiratory demand to some extent, plus or minus, it may help to maintain functional residual capacity. It's a lightweight interface, so increases the compliance of patients. It reduces oxygen dilution and it helps in washout of dead space, resulting in fresh gas with every breath. So that's all for today. Thank you for listening to me. And let's meet more regularly than what it was earlier. Bye bye and all the best.